You are listening to A Scary State, and this week we're talking about Hawaii. So, Lauren,
Yes, Kenzie.
let's get spooky.
Oh, changing it up.
Well, I thought for a second, I would wish I looked up the word for scary or spooky in Hawaiian, and I realized it too late, and so spooky just popped out instead of scary.
Well, mixing it up every now and then.
Exactly. I got to keep people on their toes.
Keep you on your toes?
People.
Oh. I thought you said keep you on my toes. I was like, okay.
Yeah, no.
So you want to hear how old I am? And this is how I know I'm truly in the 30 club. So I went to the gym yesterday. It was leg day.
I was about to say, I do know how old you are.
Well, yes. But I went to the gym yesterday and it was leg day. And I'm very, very sore today. So my legs and like my lower back are very sore. So I got in my car today and it's like 80-something degrees.
You turned
I turned on my heated seats on. And I just sat there with my back up against it. And I was like, oh, I hate myself. Because I saw people like post about that online. I said, that's stupid. And no, it helped a little bit. And then the whole car ride, I was daydreaming about coming back and getting a heating pad. And then I forgot. So I don't have one.
Do you want to go get one now?
No, I'll be okay.
Okay.
I'll be okay for now.
So we got plenty of plugs.
Yeah, we really do, actually.
And so you could plug it in and sit with it on your ghost pillow.
We'll debate if I start to feel like...
So fun fact about me, which you already know, is that I can sing the Hawaiian roller coaster song, even in the Hawaiian part.
I think you said this last time, too.
I did, but I have better news about it.
Oh?
I texted my friend, and I was like, I know this is a long shot, but she keeps everything. And she had recorded a short clip of me singing this song like back in college, like in one of our houses.
Oh my God.
Just like I'm messing around with someone and I'm just singing along to it. And so I was like, do you happen to still have that video? And she's like, I'll check and let you know. So, because no way in hell am I going to sing it on here.
Does she have it?
I don't know. She hasn't gotten back to me yet. I told her I needed it at least by next Wednesday when this comes out.
So that we can post and everyone can see your beautiful singing.
I just think it's really fucking impressive that I can do it.
It is really impressive.
I'm pretty good at like Hawaiian. Normally, like when I'm trying to pronounce something, I like can't get it. But just like the way that the words are broken up are very clearly into syllables with like the sounds instead of the pronunciation, like other words that don't break it up into segment like syllables when they tell you how to pronounce it. And I actually like can remember after not hearing it for like an extended period of time, how to say it. And I'm even better. And guess what I put in the state fact?
I do see the pronunciations.
You're welcome. Especially because there's one thing in there like towards the bottom that I was like, I can't do that to her. It has like at least 20 letters in it.
Oh man.
But I got it down, so I might be able to do it for you. If I just I might have to practice a little bit, but if my computer fucking works.
I think we're just gonna say right now, a little apology. My pronunciations might not be that great.
Well, that's why I wanted to have them up because I feel like I got really good at them because I said them 85 times.
Even for my story.
Oh, well, that I can't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try my best.
Yeah.
Like we always do.
Always.
We always try our best.
Well, I figured that's why I included them in the state facts.
Yes, I do appreciate that.
I feel like the other places that we screw up the names, I'm like, see, that's not another language. That's just poor spelling choices. So I don't feel bad when we can't pronounce Worcester or wherever the fuck that place is.
Worcester.
That too. Like, don't throw letters in there that are not supposed to be there. But when it's in another language, we want to be respectful of that language.
Right. So that's why we try.
Exactly.
And if we fail, we did try.
We did try.
We gave it our best try. Well, we're going to try. I will jump into our Hawaii facts.
All right.
Watch an island literally grow before your eyes. The volcanic action in Hawaii is 70 million years in the works and is responsible for creating the Hawaiian Islands. Two of the world's most active volcanoes, Kilauea.
So I saw in the comment that apparently the correct way is instead of Kilauea, how a lot of people do it, it's
Kilauea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Mauna Loa are located within Hawaii Volcanoes National Park on the Big Island of Hawaii. From the seafloor, Mauna Loa climbs 30,000 feet, making it taller than Mount Everest. Wow.
I thought that too, but if you go all the way down.
Oh, I guess, yeah, seafloor.
Do you remember Moana?
Yes.
I Lava You?
Yes.
You know how far down they went?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that one. I remember we went to go see it at the theater, whatever. It must have been Moana. Well, I was with you when we watched I Love You. I just remember I looked over and you were crying. Maybe it wasn't at the movies, but I just know that.
We definitely watched it.
No, it wouldn't have.
together.
I don't know. I just remember watching that short and looking at you and you were crying.
It's so sweet.
It is great. Mauna Loa is the world's largest volcano. Kilauea has been erupting regularly since 1983, spewing molten lava that has added more than 550 acres of new land to the Big Island.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. See the park via scenic roads or get out of the car for a day hike or backcountry expedition. Watching glowing lava slither into the Pacific Ocean at night, creating clouds of steam on contact, is a sight you won't soon forget. That would be really cool to see. About 15,000 years ago, a group of canoes came ashore to some of the islands now known as Hawaii. These people, the island's first known residents, had rowed about 2,000 miles from the Marquesas Islands to get here.
Did I not put on pronunciation for
You
that
did
one?
not.
Then I can't help you.
People from what is now Tahiti, over 2,500 miles away, followed 500 years later. These cultures brought traditions of their own and over time created new traditions such as surfing, hula dancing, and exchanging flower garlands called leis. In 1810, Kamehameha.
Did I put a pronunciation?
No, you did not.
Sorry. I think I had the idea, like, when it's pronouncing the main islands that people live on, I was like, oh, I should do the pronunciation. I guess I didn't go back and.
You did not. Okay, so that king became, or that name of that person became Hawaii's first king. The islands continued to have royal rulers into the 1880s. In 1898, Hawaii became a U.S. territory. It was named the 50th state.
You got it.
It was named the 50th state in 1959, and to this day, you can still visit Iolani Palace, the only royal building on U.S. soil. That's cool.
Right?
Hawaii sits over 2,000 miles west of California. One of the world's largest island chains, Hawaii is the only U.S. state completely made up of islands. But only 7 of its 132 islands are inhabited. Would you like to say the words, Mackenzie?
Sure.
Okay.
So you have Hawaii, also known as the Big Island. Maui. I didn't put a pronunciation for that because I assumed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Molokai, Lanai, like, you know, the Lanais people have. Didn't know that came from Hawaii. So there you go. Oahu, Kauai, and Niihau.
Oh. The state also encompasses the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, a group of islets, seamounts, and shoals that extend 1,350 miles northwest of the main islands. Mackenzie, would you just like to read this little fact?
Sure.
The next 2 bullets.
Harboring amazing diversity of seabirds and marine life, they are collectively known as the Papa'anaumoku'ākea Marine National Monument. When you edit, just make sure you put those together so it's nice and smooth.
I will.
Because I practiced that one a lot. A World Heritage Site and the largest contiguous, fully protected conservation under the U.S. flag. Papa'anaumoku'ākea covers 582,578 square miles of the Pacific and is bigger than all of America's national parks combined.
Hawaii is known for its beautiful beaches, some of them with unusual colors. Many beaches are filled with white sand, but other Hawaiian shores are covered with pink, red, green, and even black sand. Mauna Loa's dry lava is so much like parts of the moon's surface that astronauts once walked on it to practice for lunar voyages.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Want me to do it?
Sure.
Mount Waleale on Kauai is considered one of the rainiest spots on Earth, getting 384 inches of rain a year on average.
Gross. Though Hawaii has thousands of plants and animals, it has only one native land mammal, the Hawaiian hoary bat. Hey, I don't think it's the hoary bat.
Maybe the H is
Hoary
silent
bat.
and it's ori bat.
That sounds a lot better than hoary bat. The Hawaiian hoary bat. Hawaii's other mammals, including the mongoose, rat, and feral pig, were brought to the islands by humans. What, they weren't brought by other animals? Of course they were brought by humans.
That sentence, I'm just like, well, how else the fuck would they get here?
Did they swim there? Like,
Right.
I don't know. Except we did learn in one episode that pigs can swim.
Yes, we did learn
So.
that. We did.
Thousands of species of trees, from perfumed magnolias and plumeria to fruit-filled ohea trees, grow on the islands. Thousands of flowering plants grow there too, including exotic orchids. Hawaii's waters are home to sea life such as
Monk?
I know.
Mock seals.
Monk seals.
They're fake.
Such as monk seals, hawksbill turtles, and lizardfish. I didn't know a hawksbill was a turtle.
So, you know what that just made me think of?
Where I went for my wedding. Well, that probably isn't what you thought of. That's the brewery we had my rehearsal at. Was Hawksbill Brewing.
Oh, yeah, no,
And if it's a turtle, that just makes it all that much better.
It really does. It really
Aw.
does. What I thought of, which is so far different. Do you remember Spy Kids 2?
Vaguely.
Okay. Do you remember the crazy science guy that would like combine animals
Yes.
into these crazy things? Like when I see lizardfish or hawkbill, thinking it's a bird, but it's a turtle.
A turtle. Yeah.
That's what I think of.
I kind of thought that too at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a turtle with a hawksbill.
Right.
Yeah.
Feathers.
Ew. Disgusting. Humpback whales visit the waters from December to May to mate, give birth, and nurture their calves. Hawaii's rich soil is considered one of its most important natural resources. Sugarcane, pineapples, coffee, macadamia nuts, and flowers are all important sources of income for the state's economy.
Have you ever had those cookies that
The
have,
white chocolate and macadamia nuts?
that have the little macadamia nuts in them?
Mm-hmm.
Have you had like the chocolate ones though?
Oh, yes. I had to picture them. Yeah. What we need to start doing, this could be fun, is getting a food or a drink from whatever state and have that like during our
Yes!
episode.
Oh my God.
So for this, it could have been like those macadamia cookies.
Or a pina colada.
Or a pina colada. Or like one of the other episodes, we talked about wine. I think it was maybe New Mexico or something. Yeah, we could have had New
That's
Mexico
a
wine.
genius idea.
Thank you.
We should do drinks because because 9 times out of 10 I'm hot. And so I would love a cool drink.
Okay, we have to like plan.
Yeah.
We have a week to plan for the next one.
We do.
And I'm, yeah. Okay.
Although, isn't Wisconsin next? Or
cheese.
Oh, fuck yeah. And Wisconsin cheese is good.
Yeah.
I think I was thinking like Wyoming. I was like, what the fuck are we going to do for that?
Bison.
No, they're endangered. They are.
Bison wine.
What?
I don't know. Just guessing
Made out of.
No, it's like wine, but it's like from a bison farm. I don't know.
What part of the bison?
It's not from a bison.
Like, for the longest time when I was little, I was very confused about what the fuck buffalo wings were.
Oh.
Yeah.
Kids.
I know. It didn't help that
Buffalo Wild Wings
has the
wing.
fucking buffalo on the wing with the wings. I was like, wow, I guess it's a
There's the
flying
animal.
buffalo. I was like, buffalo doesn't have wings. I don't understand what these are.
This makes no sense.
Exactly.
Hawaii is the only U.S. state with 2 official languages, English and Hawaiian. The hula is a traditional Hawaiian dance that tells a story through movement. Dancers often wear grass skirts and leis. One time, Jared, it was Hawaiian Day at school, and he went to school with coconut, like a coconut bra, and a grass skirt. He got in trouble.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, he had to.
I'm glad though, because if he went and didn't get in trouble, but a girl would have gone and wore the same thing and gotten in trouble.
He would have been expelled.
Absolutely.
She wouldn't have just gotten in trouble. She would have been expelled.
Exactly. So good. I'm glad they weren't being, too sexist this time around.
My mom laughed. The sport of surfing may have originated in what is now Hawaii. Today, professional surfers ride waves over 50 feet high. No.
I like any ability to play a lot of sports, I think is great. Like anything you have to kind of do multiple things with. I don't count football. All you're doing is running and throwing a ball.
Yeah.
But things like hockey where you're skating and you have to do the puck thingy. Like that's crazy.
The puck thingy.
Yeah. Soccer, you're running and have to kick this ball and maneuver around people. Surfing at the mercy of whatever the fuck the ocean wants to do to you.
Seriously.
Incredible. Plus I have zero balance, so it's really incredible.
Oh, yeah, no.
Like, very cool.
Hawaii is the most isolated population center on Earth. It's about 2,400 miles from the mainland U.S., the closest landmass. Because of that, it has its own time zone, Hawaii Standard Time, and does not observe daylight saving time. Beginning the end of Sunday in March, Hawaii is 3 hours behind the Pacific time zone, or west coast of the U.S. Starting on the first Sunday in November, it is then 2 hours behind.
So that means it's sometimes 6 hours behind us.
And sometimes 5.
Yeah.
Wow. Prior to the arrival of Christian missionaries in 1820, Hawaii had no written language. Births, deaths, genealogy, battles, stories of powerful chiefs, descriptions of nature's beauty, and more were passed from generation to generation orally via songs, chants, and poems. The missionaries developed the written Hawaiian language, which was just 12 letters, the 5 vowels and 7 consonants. H, K, L, M, N, P, and W. It also has an okina symbol represented in written form as the grave accent, which is like the little, like, one quote.
Yeah.
And left single quotation mark. Meaning separation, it is a glottal stop that's considered a consonant. Sounds like uh-oh.
I watched a video because I was going to try to explain. I couldn't do it justice, so that's why I just put, it just sounds like uh-oh.
Okay.
But like, even though it's the symbol, it does sound, it's supposed to make things sound different, like almost like you're taking a short, like, pause.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the example she gave was, I guess there's one of these in Oahu, and so it's not supposed to sound like what I just said. It's supposed to sound much better than what I did with this little doohickey.
So like saying Hawaii with the little thing, it's like how you said it at the beginning.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know. The way she explained it, I was like, this sounds important, and I don't want to screw it up, so I'm just going to give you the gist. She said it sounds like uh-oh.
I like it. Was that like so exciting for you to research? Because it's like language.
I had to stop myself.
I had a feeling.
At this point in the notes, I was like, I can't keep going.
You could have done a whole paper on this.
Oh my God. I was fascinated because I was like, how can these people just come in here and create a written language for these people who have had this language established? Like, that was crazy to me.
Right. That is cool.
I'll look into that more later to see how the fuck that worked out.
That's going to be your Saturday?
Yeah. I'm sure colonialism, all that kind of good stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
But I still want to be like, how, I want to know how it was decided. So I just have questions.
The Cathedral Basilica of Our Lady of Peace, founded in downtown Honolulu in 1843, is the oldest Catholic church in continuous use in the country. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Sea cliffs on East Molokai's northern coast rise 3,315 feet above the ocean, earning distinction as the highest on Earth. Established in 1831,
Lahaina Aluna.
High School on Maui is the oldest school west of the Rocky Mountains.
Kalai.
On Hawaii Island is popularly known as South Point, appropriate considering it's the southernmost point of the United States.
But yeah, that's Hawaii for you.
Thank you. I was watching this one video and it was people who were like, I'm from Hawaii. Of course I have sandals outside. And then they just kept saying that and I was like, I can't keep watching this. It's actually really annoying me.
That's all they said is having sandals outside?
They kept doing that thing, like, you know, the whole trend where it's like, I'm a girlfriend. Of course I have
Yeah.
Their whole thing was about flip-flops. Of course I have indoor flip-flops. Of course I have outdoor flip-flops. Of course I have flip-flops in the back of my truck. Of course I have flip-flops. And I'm like,
why so many flip-flops?
I'm so annoyed.
Why not one pair?
Because they're in Hawaii, Mackenzie.
Are these people how I imagine that they look like?
How?
White people?
Yep. 100%.
Cool.
Yep.
I figured.
Nailed it.
Thank
Spot
you.
on.
Thank you. I can tell my own people, okay?
Good choose.
Anything embarrassing we do, I know it's us.
My story has a lot of that. The really bad
white people. Mine has, it mentions the bad white people, but it's thankfully not the focus of the story.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
All right, Mackenzie, what story do you have for us tonight?
Well, I guess go back up to the top. There we go.
You knew what was coming.
Yeah, I know. Just for whatever reason, started scrolling. So I have officially determined Hawaii to be the spookiest state.
Really?
Like all those places, I'm like, the most haunted place. This one.
Okay. All right, let's hear about it.
I scared myself on accident.
Oh my God, yeah, please talk about that.
So it started off, I was sitting in my living room and I was watching the various YouTube videos that I found for this place that I'm talking about. And I hate watching those things. So already I was nervous.
Right, of course.
I'll come back to that one later because something happened with that too, but I don't want to give it away.
Okay.
And then I thought I found a story on Reddit that was about someone's experience at this place because it said Hawaii Haunted Plantation.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, I'm doing a Haunted Plantation.
Okay. Makes sense.
Right. I realized about halfway through, not the same place, but at that point, it was kind of intriguing. So I was like, well,
But you had to keep
let me
reading.
just finish it off and kind of see what happened to this person, just it started off really intense, so that's why I got to finish it. And that was the worst decision I ever made. It, like, if you had seen me, my face was morphing into like, oh my God. And then reading at the end, normally, like when I squeal for you, if you like say something like they looked in a mirror, the last line I read, I was like, oh my God. And like exited out really quickly. And like deleted the link like from my like works I did. And I was like, that is the most fucked up, disturbing, creepy ass.
I want to read it. But now we don't know because you deleted the link.
I can tell you about it. Trust me, you don't want to read it. It's
Okay.
freaky. It's so freaky.
I really like creepypastas, which are like those scary stories that people write.
It was kind of like that, but what made it worse is that she said it really happened to her.
Oh.
And that like she was recounting this story because like things were happening to her presently, that she's like, this didn't used to happen to me, but I can remember when it, like, after the thing that made it start happening. And
oh yeah, you'll have to tell me what it was about. But with like, that reminds me of the creepypasta because there's one that like sticks in my brain and I read it every now and then just because it's so good. But the very last line of it just makes you go, oh my God.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those. I will say,
I want to send it to you. It's not scary.
is it the dog one where they lick the hand?
No.
Okay.
No, this is one I'm sure you've never heard of before.
Because one time at band camp, no, but it was at a summer camp. Well, we did that. We read those creepy ass stories.
No, I'll send it to you. It's very well written.
Okay.
And it's creepy, but it's creepy because of the story. Like, you're not going to think about this when you go to bed.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
I watched Celebrity Jeopardy for like just one episode.
I love Celebrity Jeopardy because I feel so smart.
Oh my God. I was screaming at the TV. How do you not know this?
What makes me feel extra, extra smart is when I'm watching normal Jeopardy and I get an answer that none of them get. And I'm like,
well, yes, but
oh yeah, but that doesn't happen very often.
Never.
But when it does happen, it happened like 2 nights ago. And I was like, did you guys hear that I answered this? And they didn't. I make sure people are aware.
But yeah, I just needed to give myself happy thoughts. And then I put on Adventure Time and started writing my story.
So you couldn't even put on like CSI or Criminal Minds? Wow.
Mm-mm. No, I said I need something that is uplifting and happy and not scary. And I almost cried because I realized I didn't bring in my bedtime snack. And I was going to have to go back out there. But then I also realized that my apartment really isn't that dark because I have a fuck ton of night lights throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. So it's pretty much lit anyways.
Because I'm already scared of the dark.
Right.
So like I have one in my kitchen, I have 2 in my living room, one in my bedroom.
Oh yeah, we have a couple throughout.
Yeah.
Mainly for Roy, but still.
Yeah, Roy and I got a lot in common.
We have to keep on so many lights. For him, our electricity bill is always so high. We have like full rooms illuminated for 24 hours a day.
Poor buddy.
I know. Okay, story time.
Okay, so this place that I'm talking about today, the Hawaiian Plantation Village, has spirits that haunt this museum all times of the year.
Oh, it's a museum.
And I can sense your puzzled look as I write this, but what I mean is this place is haunted not only during like the museum stuff, but also during when it's a haunted house attraction.
Oh.
So it's double haunted.
Fun.
Terrifying,
but fun.
To save you some time, I will answer your question. No, I will never go to this place, not even for the history part. Let's begin, shall we? Little history for you. Sugarcane has deep roots in Hawaiian history, introduced by the island's earliest inhabitants around 600 AD. Captain Cook noted its presence upon his arrival in 1778. By the mid-19th century, sugar had grown into a significant industry, propelling rapid population growth with over 337,000 immigrants arriving within the century.
Wow.
However, the success of sugar plantations relied heavily on imported labor. Diseases brought by foreigners had decimated the Hawaiian population, leaving little inclination among the native people to engage in plantation work.
Okay.
Especially when they knew how to farm and fish and didn't need that.
Right.
They could provide their own sustenance.
As they had been doing.
Exactly. The need for laborers prompted the importation of workers from China in 1850, followed by substantial influxes of Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Filipino workers in the subsequent years. It was kind of interesting because on the Wikipedia page, it also mentioned like the percentage of them that went back after.
Like back to their country?
It was definitely always less than half. And as it got closer to the 20th century, less went back.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. Plantation owners faced new challenges in accommodating their diverse workforce as they imported laborers that did not possess the self-sufficiency as Native Hawaiians, because they're not from there.
Right.
To maintain control and prevent organized labor movements, plantation managers strategically diversified the ethnic makeup of their workforce, establishing a hierarchical caste system that divided workers along ethnic lines.
Oh.
Despite these divisions, the multicultural environment fostered the development of a common language known as Hawaiian Pidgin. I think that's how you say that, which facilitated communication and exchange of knowledge among workers from different backgrounds. So you had it was this combination of Hawaiian, English, Japanese, Filipino, all into one, and they were all able to communicate with each other that way.
Oh, wow.
So today, Hawaii Plantation Village serves as a testament to this rich history. Nestled in Waipahu, the village offers a journey back to the early 1900s, showcasing over 25 authentic plantation homes and structures. Through its museum and meticulously restored buildings, visitors can immerse themselves in the lives of plantation workers from various ethnic groups. The village aims to preserve and share the stories of Hawaii's diverse culture, including Hawaiian, Chinese, Japanese, Filipino, Korean, Okinawan, Portuguese, and Puerto Rican.
Wow.
Visitors can explore community buildings such as the plantation store, infirmary, bathhouse, and manager's office, gaining insights into the daily lives and struggles of those who toiled in the sugar fields. Moreover, the village's botanical offerings reflect the global influences of immigration, featuring plants from China, Portugal, Japan, Puerto Rico, Korea, Okinawa, Polynesia, and the Philippines. I had to give myself air before I did all that.
Oh my gosh.
These plants not only add authenticity to the experience, but also provide visitors with a taste of the diverse fruits cultivated by the immigrant laborers. In essence, the Hawaiian Plantation Village stands as a living tribute to the resilience, ingenuity, and cultural heritage of those who shaped Hawaii's plantation era, offering a compelling narrative of perseverance among adversity and the enduring legacy of multiculturalism in the islands.
Wow.
So, still bad white people.
Well, yeah.
But the museum's not about them, so it's okay.
It's fine.
It's about all the other people.
Good.
And it's spooky as fuck. Jeffrey Higa, the executive director of the village, told Honolulu Magazine that prior to working at the village, he didn't really believe in ghosts and spirits. That quickly changed as he was forced to deal with numerous supernatural reports from visitors, tour guides, members of the security team,
Oh, fun.
and even the haunted house actors. It got to a point where people are no longer allowed to work alone in any of the houses or at night, with the exception of during the haunted house, but people work in pairs.
Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
That's when you know, when they're like, you can't be alone.
I'm telling you, this place is fucking freaky. Even Jeffrey said that he doesn't visit the village alone. He usually brings his 55-pound collie to work.
No.
He told the magazine, quote, "He's a collie. He never barks. But all of a sudden, he'll stop and he'll bark at something and there's nothing there." And I go, ugh, I do not want to turn that corner.
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah. I think her name is Moira.
Moira? Moira Rose?
Moira. Moira. Right?
Moira.
Yeah. Moira is one of the storytellers / tour guides that work in the village. In the Japanese house, there's a doll that is left on display in the house every day. When the workers come back the next day, the doll is typically out of its case and on the ground. She said that when children walk through houses, they sometimes start talking to someone that their parents can't see.
No.
When their parents, it sucks for the shoe to be on the other fucking foot, doesn't it?
Oh, I get goosebumps when you tell me things.
Good, it's only going to get worse. When their parents ask who they're talking to and the children reply that there is a little girl or boy standing right in front of them, and they'll say, "Can't you see them?" Moira recalled a time when the village was having a festival and a mom was with her little girl. The mom lost sight of the little girl and went back to go look for her. She was sitting on the ground talking to someone. The little girl turned to her mom and asked, "Can you see my friend?"
What would you do?
I wouldn't even be there, so.
No, like say hypothetically, you're just somewhere and you're with my child whenever that happens, and you're having like a aunt niece day.
Mhm.
And she sits down and she starts talking to someone. She says that to you.
I'm going to convince myself it's an imaginary friend because I had 2 of them, so it's fine. Talk to whoever the fuck you want. I did it.
Okay.
Like,
As long as this is how you're going to rationalize it.
Yeah.
Because I kind of hope like part
Unless-
of my kid is like a creepy kid, like partly a creepy kid.
the only thing that will maybe freak me out about it is that I don't know if it's all only children that have imaginary friends. I think it's majority of them. But like, I didn't really, once I got siblings, they kind of went away.
Yeah.
And so if they already have their sibling and they do that, I might just leave your child.
Kenzie, where is she? I don't know. She was talking to a ghost. I'm here. She's still there.
Very responsible when it comes to children, okay?
But when ghosts are involved, not so much.
Well, actually, I would like to say that because I'm taking care of the child, I do become very brave.
Yeah, I feel like you have to in situations like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Jimmy. Like,
Yeah.
I had to be brave for him.
Yeah.
And like, when my second graders would get freaked out about a thunderstorm,
Aw.
we had to work through it together.
Okay.
And so I'm like, blood doesn't freak me out as much when it's a child bleeding, except if it's a tooth. That fucking gross. Get that out of here.
What I think is
Shit's
so funny is
nasty.
people have like their icks. Like Casey's a nurse. The one thing she can't do is snot.
It's not
She can do anything else, but that she can't do it.
snot and loose teeth.
That is so funny.
I can do it once it's out of your mouth.
But when they're like,
But if
wiggling
you're
it,
like, look at a wiggle. I'm like, no, thank you.
that's when you're like, just pop it on.
My teeth haven't wiggled in a long time. So no, thank you. Nah. Where was I? Oh, can you see my friend? Right.
right, yeah.
Higa says he mostly gets reports about doors suddenly opening and closing, even if there's no wind. Walking into houses, workers have complained of feeling like pressure and things feel heavy. They're touched, poked, all that kind of good stuff.
Yep.
Even while they're giving tours. Most experiences occur at night and typically when people are alone. Higa recounted a time when a chef friend of his asked if he could send him a picture of their forno, which is an outdoor oven. And when Higa sent the picture, his friend called him back immediately and asked who the girl was in the photo. He told his friend that there was no girl, and his friend told him that on the oven there is a shadow of a girl as if someone was standing next to Higa when he took the picture. Another time, Higa was talking to a group of 2 Japanese tourists, and they were standing in one of the kitchens of the houses. While he was sharing information about the place, 2 pots banged together. He paused. The tourist asked what that sound was. He told them he didn't know, and they continued on with the tour. A few seconds later, happens a second time. The tourist asks him again, what is that? Higa, not knowing a lot of Japanese, said, obake. The tourist went screaming and running out of the house.
Does that mean ghost?
As I'm sure you can guess, obake means ghost. People don't typically last very long working at the village. Jeff Higa told KITV News that the longest security guard lasted 2 weeks and the shortest was 2 days.
2 days is pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking you were going to say like 2 hours.
No, I thought they were going to say that too. No, it's 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, not good.
So, like I said, for a couple of nights a year for Halloween, the village becomes a haunted house attraction called the Haunted Plantation.
I was just thinking, if you apply to a new job, it's like, oh, why'd you leave your last job? Oh, it was haunted.
Right? Why did you work out at your last place? It was haunted as fuck,
I see you're
man.
only here for 2 days. Could you explain?
Honestly, at that point, I wouldn't even put it down.
What's this gap in your resume?
Right. I worked at a haunted museum and didn't think it was appropriate to put on.
But now that you ask,
Right.
I can't tell you how many interviews, because I put like JMU ghost hunting on the like my things that I've done in college, like my resumes, and people will be like, so can you explain this? And I'm like, yes, I can.
I would love to. Thank you for asking.
And then I get the reputation as the ghost girl, and I really lean into it, and I really love it.
There are worse things you'd be called.
Because then people are like, can I tell you my ghost story? I'm like,
Of course
absolutely you can.
Don't need to ask me twice. Noah Laporga, the Haunted Plantation creator, told Honolulu Magazine, I didn't want to build sets to make it look scary. So instead, he relies on the village creepiness at night.
Oh.
He hypes up the fear factor by throwing in some fog and spooky music and at least 50 costume actors hiding in the dark corners of the houses.
As one does.
Laporga started the Haunted Plantation in 2006. He does the actors' makeup from the sad-looking clown to the disfigured faces. And let me tell you, these creatures that they turn into did not help with reading about these haunted things.
I bet they did not.
Fucking freaky as hell.
Then you have a visual. I want to be one of these actors so badly.
I could be the actor.
Yeah.
I could be the actor for sure.
You know people would try to scare you, right?
Not if I kept it a secret.
No, your other cast members. Like your other haunted people, like the other actors who are jumping out to scare people.
Yeah.
They would also try to scare you.
Why?
Because that's what they would do.
But I'm not going through. I didn't pick.
Yeah, I know. But if you're there waiting in your spot, you don't think someone's going to come up and try to scare you?
No, they got to stay in their position. They got to be
Mackenzie.
ready for the patrons.
Mackenzie.
So they can't be horsing around. They got to take it seriously.
Yeah, they take it seriously when no one's walking through the house. Go on.
I would make it. I can always be on the other side of creepy. I just can't be the consumer of it. At first, he was also skeptical. At first, he was also skeptical about reports of the plantation's haunting. However, in the beginning of the installation of the Haunted Plantation, Laporga's family members helped with the haunted part. He told the magazine that his mother helped scare some unsuspecting visitors inside the Portuguese home. She felt tugging at the keys in the inside her pocket jeans. Inside her jean pocket?
You know, when you said pocket jeans, it completely made sense to me. It doesn't make sense, but it made sense to me.
It's like
I didn't think anything.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, jeans are pockets.
Yeah.
No. Pockets are jeans.
See? Laporga said, quote, "We're thinking it was the little girl who was just curious about the Hello Kitty toy in my mom's pocket."
Aw.
But not all stories are playful. One haunted house actor who was scaring in the Portuguese home last year for Halloween reported strange bruises on her leg. It looked like somebody, or something, had grabbed her legs. She posted a photo of the bruises on Facebook, and another employee who had worked the same shift in the same house had the same thing happen to them. And go me, 10 points. When I was watching the YouTube video about it and they showed the picture of the leg, I took a screenshot.
Oh.
So I have it.
Yes.
Because every time I try to go back to look for those things, I can't fucking find it.
Right.
So I'm ready. In the Okinawa house, people have reported they feel like they're getting physically choked by someone they can't see.
Oh, see, I don't like that one.
One female actor said she felt pressure on her neck and could barely breathe in the Okinawan house. She never returned.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Laporga said that between 50 to 20 actors have quit in the time that he's been running the Haunted Plantation, and close to 40 employees overall have quit working in the village in the time that Higa and Laporga have been running the place.
Wow.
Of the village's 25 plantation houses, approximately half of them were legitimately haunted. The village has been featured in an episode of Ghost Hunters as well as the Travel Channel. I don't know if those are on the same thing, but that's what the article said.
I don't know.
Because I know that there are ghost hunting shows on the Travel Channel.
Yeah.
I just don't know if Ghost Hunters is that.
No idea.
So, there you go. So as I was doing my research, I noticed that majority of the activity in the ghost stories come from the Portuguese house. The most common report is a ghost of a little girl. She mostly appears to children, even during the daytime, and particularly favors women. The first time Higa received a report about a ghost child in the house was when one of the docents was taking a group around the village. It was a couple and their young son, maybe 11 or 12. They had walked through multiple houses, and at the third house, the docent asked if anyone had any questions. The young boy raised his hand and asked, "Who was the little girl standing behind you in the first house?" Not thinking much of it at the time, which I don't know why she didn't, the docent reported it to Higa, who at the time was only getting minor reports, or reports of minor disturbances. At the beginning. Yeah. So this is when he first started hearing about the girl, and at the time he was hearing about disturbances, but they were just like the door slamming kind of thing.
Right.
So this was like the first time that someone has really seen something. After that, more and more reports about this little girl messing with patrons or tour guides started coming in. There was one docent who claimed something touched her hair and shoulders. The ghost flipped her hair over her face, and the woman immediately ran to Higa. She told him she would never set foot inside the Portuguese house again. Higa decided to bring in a minister to investigate. Reverend Cau Silva asked Higa and the female docent to meet him in the Portuguese house. Silva used holy water to bless every window and door inside the house. He also used I don't know if it's Thai or tea leaf, and Hawaiian salt to purify the house. Silva told them, quote, "The good news is the spirit is a good spirit. She feels very close to this area. She's protecting the houses. And so we don't need to worry about her. She is not an evil spirit."
Oh.
The minister turned to the guide and said, "But she's very interested in you." The guide replied, "I don't want her to be interested in me. I don't know who she is." Which, fair. Silva told the woman, quote, "She's interested in you because she has never had a mother." The docent started crying.
Oh.
Higa recalls asking, "What do you mean she's never had a mother? Everybody has a mother." So here's this supposed story of this little girl.
Okay.
Her story is that her mother apparently abandoned her when she was a newborn after taking one look at her.
Oh.
And her father was forced to raise the girl alone. They obviously didn't have daycares at the time.
Right.
So her father would tie up his daughter to a table or chair while he went to work in the plantation fields.
Oh, my God.
One day, there was a fire in the camp. All the plantation workers rushed back to the village to help out the fire. They were deathly afraid the fire would spread when one wooden house caught on fire. Bitter and ashamed, the man went inside the house and realized that he could either rescue his daughter or, quote, get rid of his problem. He decided on the latter, and she died in the house.
Oh, my God.
I know. Because the young girl lacked a maternal figure, Higa says that her spirit is supposedly attracted to women who are mother-like.
Oh.
I know.
That one's so heartbreaking.
Hager recalled, my guide was crying and shaking. I don't want her near me. I don't want her touching me. I don't want her bothering me. At this point, I started to feel bad for the spirit.
Right.
Hager goes on to say, quote, Kahu got really mad. He said, this is a gift. You have to understand she's reaching out to you, so you can't reject her. You have to understand her story. For about 3 or 5 years after this incident, the girl did not bother anyone in the village.
Oh, because she's sad.
Yes. But eventually she starts to come back, and she mostly appearing to children on the tour and up to her usual antics. So she came back.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I also don't want her to come back. I want her to be able to, like, you know, peacefully die and peacefully go wherever she wants to go. Like, cross over.
Yeah. Well, that would obviously be preferred.
Right.
But if her spirit just went somewhere else, then I'm glad she's back where she wants to be.
Well, yeah, for that reason.
We'll get to that part because I have a comment.
Okay.
About spirits and their locations. A little bit of a soapbox moment.
Oh, no.
But it's about ghosts, so it's funny.
Yeah, I was like, how do you have a soapbox moment about ghosts?
You'll see. You'll see.
Okay.
I think you'll agree with me.
Probably.
So one of the ghost hunters in Real Paranormal Oahu was invited by Hawaiian Hunting to come with them on an investigation of the Hawaiian Plantation Village. I'm not sure of this guy's name, but I'm going to refer to him as cameraman.
Okay.
Because he was the one holding the camera.
Makes sense.
So they started out in groups of 4, but then separated to explore the village alone. No. As the cameraman walks through one of the houses, you can hear a very distinct whisper of someone saying, I got that, and that is fast. And normally I I look and try not to look because if something whispers, I want to know, did I hear it?
Or am I picturing what it's saying?
Exactly.
Yes.
But it sounded like I was like, ugh, when I opened. So it was pretty distinct whisper. Cameraman told the others in the room that he felt a lot of pressure in his chest and like someone was burning a hole in his back. Some of the others believed that it was the little girl who had died in the fire. One of the investigators with Hawaiian Hunting said she could feel the energy of a spirit touching her butt. Not angry, just the energy.
Just energy.
Just energy.
Yeah, how do you angrily touch butt?
Yeah. At this point, cameraman starts zooming in and focusing on the various dolls throughout the houses.
No.
I said, nope, and fast forward. Because fuck that. Like, he's getting up close. Eyes are closed, or like maybe the head slightly turned, and all I'm imagining is like,
yup.
I was like, well, we're going to fast forward through that part.
The eyes just.
Exactly. At the end of that section, he is waving his hand over a baby doll that has its eyes closed. And he said he could feel a very cold breeze on his hand, almost like someone was breathing on him.
Ew.
That's what I said. Cameraman decided to pan around outside, facing the forest that's like behind the houses. And he pans past one section and you can see 2 bright lights between the trees, and not like car lights, like 2 very circular dots. I think it looked like eyes.
I was just going to ask, but I didn't want you to be like, you're going ahead.
Well, good. I'm glad you didn't ask because you would have been going ahead. And then the thing that to me says eyes and not like a car was because the lights like went out.
Ew.
It's not like if a car is turning and it like pans by something or whatever. Like it was 1 minute it was on, 1 minute it was
like
off.
something close with eyes.
Yeah. Or turned off the lights or whatever it was.
Right.
Yeah. And they also have it in slow motion because they saw it too. And you can clearly, when they put it in slow motion, you can clearly see the lights shutting off right before the camera like passes and continues panning around. So I was like, there's something out there. Faux show. So towards the end of the investigation, cameraman was in the kitchen of one of the houses and asked a spirit to come forward and speak to him. So at this point, I decided, well, I'm going to close my eyes and see if I can hear something. Because, I wanted to make sure that it was legit and not just...
Right,
yeah.
Suggestion.
So the first time I played it, I could definitely hear a whisper. I didn't know what it said, but I could definitely hear like a pss, pss, pss. And then I watched it again, this time with my eyes open to see what it said. And it almost sounded at that point like a quiet voice. Like it was nearby, but maybe in like another room. And it said, we're all back here.
No.
I didn't like it.
No.
The other lady, she came in behind cameraman and she was going to take some pictures. And they were just chit-chatting. And then the bitch screams and freaks out, which of course, in turn, causes me to also scream and freak out.
Naturally.
And she's freaking out because she thought she saw or she heard someone singing behind her. And I'm like, no. No. Thankfully, it was the end of the video because I stopped watching.
You can't say you wouldn't do the same thing. You can't. You cannot.
But here's the thing. I would never go because I would do the same thing.
Right.
So if I'm there and you do that, murder instantly.
Adding one more spirit.
Like, if I have risen myself up from the ashes of being afraid and walking through a haunted house and you scream,
it is so funny.
it'd
You
be
being this
friendship
person with
ending.
tattoos and piercings and this and that, terrified of everything.
Yeah. I like spooky things. I don't like scary.
Some haunted houses can be just cute.
And hello, I obviously am always going to give off the impression that I'm a badass bitch, but really deep down, a little baby. But no one's going to know that when they talk to me. They're going to think I'm the most confident person ever.
Obviously.
Yeah. I love it when people are like, wow, you just always seem so confident. I said, good.
I'm acting with things.
Thank you. That's what I wanted you to think. So I'm glad it's working. This is what I was telling you about. One YouTuber on one of the videos I watched commented on it and said, quote, "It depends on how large your imagination is. I've been affiliated with this museum for 20 years as a docent volunteer and have never seen a ghost there. By the way, no one has ever lived in these houses. The village was built for tourism purposes as a historical site for people to see how the sugar plantation people lived. All the homes were built to scale copies from different plantations around Hawaii. Hawaii's Plantation Village was open for tours in 1992. And this comment made me think about the different places that we've covered and how a lot of times there's always someone mentioning something about, well, this person who haunts this place didn't even live there, or they don't really have a connection to there, whatever it is.
Right.
After this, I have decided that my belief is that you don't need to have lived in a place in order to haunt it. Especially a place like this that talks about the history and the livelihood of these people.
Right.
To me, it is very possible that the heritage of the place brought in spirits of people who did live on the plantation homes all those years ago. Those homes might no longer be there. And so, next best thing.
Right.
We are constantly learning about the spirit world, and who is to say for sure that someone has to have resided in, worked at, or have some kind of connection to some place in order to haunt it?
Is this your soapbox?
This is my soapbox, and I'm stepping down.
That makes sense.
I think so too. I just don't think it's a valid enough argument anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, yes, I also believe in the power of suggestion. You know, if enough people are going, they might feel something because they think they're going to feel something.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that there's that aspect to it too. But I don't know. I feel like if something is drawing that spiritual energy.
I was just going to say, and it could be something that's just drawing people there.
Right.
Like drawing the spirits here.
Right. And I'm like, if I'm a spirit and I can't, move on, and I have to stick around, I would rather haunt or be in a place that's empty.
Oh, really?
Then no one's there because...
Oh, I thought you meant like empty from other spirits. I would be like, I wouldn't want other spirits there with me because I feel lonely.
Like empty from people.
Right.
And so, of course, natural curiosity, people are going to check out abandoned places.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, oh, fuck, all these people are here. I'm probably freaking out, trying to hide, knocking shit over.
You absolutely would.
Cool air brushing by people. Like, I can completely see why a ghost like me would make people think that places are haunted, even if I'm not doing it on purpose.
I like how you say, ghosts like me make these people think that it's haunted. You're already there. It's already haunted.
But I'm not trying to make it
But it's already haunted. If you are there, already haunted.
But if I was a better hider...
But you'd still be haunted. People might not know it's haunted, but it's still haunted.
Well, that's like the tree in the forest. If no one knows that there's a ghost there, is it still haunted?
Yeah.
If a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, doesn't make a sound?
We can debate on that later.
In conclusion, the Haunted Village is not recommended for children under 13 years old, pregnant women, or people with heart conditions.
Pregnant women?
Yo, this shit is fucked. I'm telling you, the actors alone and the kind of creepy shit they have on their faces, he really didn't have to work too hard to make it creepy, because just the fact that these scary motherfuckers are popping out at you, I'd piss my pants.
I bet you they allowed pregnant women at one point, and then one came and got so scared that she gave birth.
Well, they talked about how a couple of people who are like, these big bad, I like things scary, like you, go in there and don't make it. People come out crying.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This one podcast I listened to, the host is pregnant, and they did like a haunted investigation at a really well-known haunted location. And I was like, I would not go there knowing I was pregnant.
No, that's got to be some psychological thing that she's like already, if she's been doing it so often.
No, that was their first time investigating a haunted place. It might have been before they knew they were. No, I think she knew she was pregnant. I don't know. But either way, I wouldn't go with a little bit in me.
Yeah. Not unless I'm like a seasoned vet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing how to like protect yourself.
Yeah. Anyway, if you're brave enough to explore this haunted plantation or just the village itself for historical reasons, they recommend coming the last 2 nights of the haunted stuff because the lines aren't as long. But just don't go alone.
Yeah. Don't go alone.
Even if you're going to the museum part, don't go alone.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Ooh.
This place is terrifying.
That was a good one.
Which, for me, it's also heartbreaking because I'm like, I would fucking love to go to something like this.
Right. For like all the history.
Oh
and
my
all the
God.
Like, yeah.
It'd be
roots
so
of it.
interesting because you're also finding about all these different cultures.
Yeah.
That like you might not really have the opportunity to do it because it's all in one
It's
place.
all there.
If shit's happening during the day to patrons,
Yeah. No.
I'll just stick to reading it online. Whew. So that is the haunted Hawaiian Plantation Village. Hawaii is scary.
Yeah.
Hawaii is...
Yeah. I think I prefer listening to it here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that story that I read, it happened in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It's just a different plantation.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, all these scary things are happening in these places.
Something about the islands, because also Guam is like super haunted.
That's what I'm like, there's something.
And Puerto Rico.
I don't know, I was thinking about this because I was like, I wonder if it's because they're also like more in touch with nature and
Maybe.
that kind of spiritual side of things. If that like makes it a hot
Maybe.
spot.
It could, because it's more like you're. I don't want to say this in a way that sounds like ignorant, but it's like you're more like welcoming to the spirit.
Yeah.
Like you're more in touch with it.
Yeah, and you're more open
welcoming,
to it.
More open.
Yeah, because I mean, even if it's just to your ancestors, it's still
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was thinking about that as I was looking into this stuff. Not only could I never survive the plane ride, but I don't know if I could go to Hawaii anymore.
It's a long plane ride.
I might be too scared.
No, I think if we go to like one of the main like touristy places.
Yeah.
But that's not as fun.
No.
Well, nicely done. This was good.
Thanks.
This is entertaining.
Thank you. I liked this one. I was worried because there's really not a lot of like personal experiences besides the people talking about like the people who run the place and things like that.
But I love those experiences.
I feel like they're a little bit more legit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so I was a little worried, but I ramble, so I made it long enough.
Yeah.
And
no problem with that.
Probably good that I keep one at a normal length.
Yeah.
Instead of really long.
Yeah.
So I hope you're all freaked out and have goosebumpies and are scared to look in the rearview mirror of your car if you're listening to this in your car. Because that's how I feel every time Lauren talks about something spooky, haunted, demonic, whatever.
Oh, you're welcome.
Mm-hmm. What spooky tea you pouring, Lauren? Did I tell you that my friend texted me and said that she thought that was clever?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So the story I'm going to talk about today, I just need to do a blanket trigger warning, of course. The story contains mentions of rape, and there's a lot of racism and racial tensions throughout the whole thing. Grace Hubbard Fortescue was a New York socialite who had to take the law into her own hands.
Ooh.
She killed the man who was charged with the rape of her daughter.
Yes, girl.
Okay. That's what I was like at first.
Yeah.
I read the brief description and I was like, hell yes. Yes.
Uh-huh.
But then as I went through my research, I don't know how I feel anymore.
Oh, no.
So Grace Hubbard Bell was born on November 3rd, 1883 in D.C.
Nice.
to parents Roberta Wolcott Hubbard Bell and Charles John Bell. So this is a really cool fact. So her father, Charles John Bell, was the first cousin of Alexander Graham Bell.
Oh, that's cool.
Who invented the what, Mackenzie?
Telephone.
That is right, the telephone. Alexander ended up marrying her mother's sister.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't wrap my head around it either.
Okay.
Her grandfather, Gardiner Green Hubbard, was the first president of the Bell Telephone Company and the first president of the National Geographic Society.
So she got some money.
Oh, yes. Grace and her family lived in Twin Oaks, D.C. As a youngster, Grace was classified as a prankster. One time, she and her friend stole a trolley car and did a joyride through the streets of Washington, D.C.
Nice.
Another time, she and her friends joined hands and roller skated down Pennsylvania Avenue, blocking traffic.
Love it.
Grace eventually married U.S. Army Major Granville Raleigh what was the name? Fortescue. Her husband was one of the sons of Robert Barwell Roosevelt and first cousin of U.S. President Teddy Roosevelt. I know. That was my face throughout this whole thing. There's one more. She and Raleigh had 3 daughters.
Say that again, because it sounds like you said 3 otters, and I know you meant 3 daughters. I'm like, she's going to be listening back to that, and she's going to hear otters.
She and Raleigh had 3 daughters.
There you go.
See, this is good, because sometimes when we're editing, we're like, oh, how did neither of us catch that word?
Absolutely.
Thalia Fortescue Massie, born on February 14th, 1911. Marion Fortescue, born in 1912, and Kenyon Fortescue Reynolds, born in 1914, better known as actress Helen Whitney. She's like, I looked her up. She's like a really famous actor back in the times.
I don't know her.
I don't either, but she was famous back in like the 1920s, 30s-ish.
So like when movies were silent.
But so 3 very famous people in her family tree.
Yes.
On the outside, the Fortescues seemed to have it all and appeared to be very wealthy country gentry. But in actuality, they were struggling hard financially, which only hit harder when Raleigh retired from the army. He briefly worked as a fiction writer for Liberty magazine in 1930, but other than that, he didn't have steady income. He would rather wait for his wife to inherit a fortune when her parents passed than work in the meantime.
I was just about to ask about the inheritance.
Yep, so he knew it was coming.
Sure.
But who knows when.
Right.
Grandma had a friend who they were set to get an inheritance from their parents.
Mm-hmm.
Their parents lived to be 105. So thinking they were going to get the inheritance when they're in their 60s and now in their like 80s.
Well, you go to their children.
It's very funny. But I would rather have the family member, but
Yeah. Not that we're saying.
Right. It's just grandma's friend joked about it all the time.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
All right. Either way, though, Grace was determined to raise her daughters in an upper-class lifestyle, especially keeping up with those appearances, and that is exactly what she did. So our story will focus on Grace's daughter, Thalia.
The actress?
No. Just the firstborn.
I think that this is one of the stories on BuzzFeed. I don't know if it's the true crime or the...
It's going to be the true crime.
Well, I gathered, given what you opened with. But I don't know if they talk about, like, something that has to do with the haunted house, because I don't remember the last name that you said. The
Fortescue?
Yeah. But the Hubbard is... There's something.
Yeah. So her daughter Thalia, I think it's Thalia, Thalia. Would that be Thalia or Thalia?
I would say Thalia.
Thalia? Okay. Her daughter Thalia married Thomas Massie, a lieutenant in the U.S. Navy, in November of 1927. Massie was stationed at Pearl Harbor in May 1930 to Submarine Squadron 4.
Uh-oh.
Thalia went with him and immediately upon arrival started to consider herself above the other officers' wives.
Oh, God.
Her attitude actually made her an outcast among them.
That checks.
Yep. But in the summer of 1931, Thalia was pregnant but was diagnosed with preeclampsia. This hit her hard.
What is that again?
It's where, I don't know 100%, I know it makes your blood pressure get really, really high.
Yeah.
And it's very dangerous for mom and baby.
And I know, like, it's, like, a serious one. I just don't understand, like, what specifically.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. My coworker had it, and she had to be hospitalized for, like 2 months at least, where she was not allowed to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
And she...
When they say bed rest, they're not just saying
No,
that.
like, the farthest she would ever walk was to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. So, okay. So it's, like, super high blood pressure to the point of, like...
She was getting tested every 3 hours.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this hit her really hard, and she actually ended up losing the baby.
Aww.
She decided to seek counseling to find a way to deal with this loss.
Good for her.
She started meeting with a psychologist. But pretty soon after meeting with them, the psychologist concluded that Thalia's, quote, personal and emotional problems were so serious that she actually needed to seek treatment with a psychiatrist.
Damn.
So the psychiatrist is the one that gives you meds.
Yeah.
And none of that was made easier by the fact that Thalia and Thomas already had a rocky marriage. I'll probably be calling her Thalia and Thalia throughout the whole thing.
I won't even notice, so you're fine.
Good. So the two had a rocky marriage, and soon enough, their marriage took on heavy drinking and public fights. Things escalated on September 12th, 1931. The couple had attended a Navy event at the Alawai Inn, which was a Waikiki nightclub. When we went to the beach the first year, we got this water, and it was pronounced a weird way. We kept calling it Wakeke. We looked up how you actually pronounce it. It's not that at all. But so, Wakiki, I think of
Wakiki.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it made us laugh. Okay. At some point in the night, Thalia got into an argument with another officer at the event, which ended in her slapping him and storming out. Her husband, Thomas, didn't see the slap or the altercation and just assumed that she was tired and had headed home. After a little bit, Thomas finally called her to see if she was okay and had made it home safely. After several calls, she finally answered, but was in a complete state of shock. Thomas immediately headed home after hearing his wife. When he arrived back, she told him that while she had been walking home, she had been assaulted. She said that just before 1 a.m., she stopped a car on Ala Moana Boulevard. She had a broken jaw and scuffed cheeks. She begged the car to drive her home, and they did.
She had a broken jaw?
That's what she said.
So it was after it happened that she stopped the car?
Yeah, so she gets assaulted. She stops the car around 1 o'clock. They drive her home. So it happened before 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Though she objected, Thomas immediately called the authorities, who quickly arrived to take her statement. When police arrived, Thalia's story changed slightly. Instead of just being assaulted, she told authorities that she had been, quote, gang raped by 4 or 5 Hawaiian men. And at first, Thalia said that she was unable to recall any details as it had been too dark to make out the men's features or anything about the car they had been driving. But several hours later, her story changed. Thalia now said that the men were locals and was able to provide a license plate number of the car.
What?
Within hours of Thalia providing her new information, a man named Horace Ida was arrested. Upon his arrest, he wasn't really surprised or shocked that he had been arrested, as he had an incident just earlier that night. Horace Ida was a young Japanese man. He had borrowed his sister's 2-year-old car and was driving himself and some friends to a luau. Excuse my pronunciations. So his friends, Joe Kahahoe, Benny Ahaquelo, David Takai, Henry Chang, and Horace Ida headed to the luau and stayed there until about 12:30 a.m. When Horace decided to call it a night, they all piled back into his car and left. They were approaching an intersection in downtown Honolulu when they almost collided with the car that was coming from the opposite direction. There was no contact between the cars, a true near miss. But both of the cars stopped, and all of the occupants in each car got out and started arguing about vehicle law in Hawaii. The occupants of the other car were Mr. and Miss Peoples. Peeples. Miss Peoples was in the process of voicing her opinion of Ida's driving to him when 6-foot-tall Joe walked straight up to Miss Peoples and punched her square in the face. But she was not one to be messed with. She clenched her fist, wound up, and punched Joe right in the kisser.
Hell yeah!
Without more incident, the Peoples got back into their car and took off to the police station to report the crime. At the station, they provided the police with Ida's license plate, 58-895. Police immediately put out a bulletin for the car and its occupants.
Please tell me I don't have to remember that.
You do not.
Okay.
It was around this same time that the police learned about the rape of Thalia? What was
I think you've been saying Thalia.
Thalia, okay.
It was Dahlia, but
Thalia. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. It was around that same time that the police learned about the rape of Thalia that had occurred in Ala Moana Park. So naturally, the police assumed that the occupants of the car were also responsible for the rape and assault of her. Ida and the men were eventually found due to their license plate, and that is when they were brought into the station. When he was taken to the police station, the charges of the altercation were never brought up. Here is where Ida learned that he was being charged with rape. So he thought, yep, I'm getting arrested.
Right, yeah.
Joe punched this woman, like, we're in trouble.
Right.
That wasn't brought up at all. He was charged with rape. And the charges and the evidence against him really seemed to hold some weight. So when Ida first arrived at the station, he was wearing a brown leather jacket, and Thalia didn't recognize the man. But just a few hours later, under further questioning, Thalia now remembered the license plate of the car, which happened to only be 1 digit off from Ida's actual license plate. She also recalled that one of her assailants was wearing a brown leather jacket. It was found out later, though, that Thalia had been given this information by the police because while she was at the station, she heard the license plate number of Ida's being read off of the incident with the other woman. So as she's in the station, the other woman comes to, like, talk about the situation, and that's when she heard the license plate.
This is giving very eerie, similar vibes to, like, the kinds of stories you would hear happening, like, in the Deep South of women claiming that a Black man or a group of Black men had assaulted her in some kind of way, and then a lynch mob goes after them. It's same vibes, just different place.
Yep. This information only made Ida look more and more suspicious. The 5 men insisted that they were not part of any assault on a lone white woman who was walking through the darkness of John Ina Road. They provided the itinerary of their entire night, including the fight, everything. Like, they, pretty much are incriminating themselves.
There's 4 of them.
Right. They're like, we got into an altercation. Like, we punched this lady in the face. Like,
right.
we were there.
Charges for that.
Yeah. But the police were not convinced. The 5 men were all indicted and charged with the rape and assault of Thalia Massie. So the public was outraged.
Oh, God.
All of the men accused were from impoverished or working class backgrounds. 2 were Hawaiian, 2 were Japanese, and 1 was Chinese Hawaiian. The victim, Thalia, was from a wealthy background and she was white. Newspapers referred to the boys as thugs, degenerates, and fiends. Thalia was described as, quote, a white woman of refinement and culture. You can already see a lot of racism and prejudice coming through from the very beginning.
Is it Emmett Till, the one that's like the big...
Yeah.
But I know...
You talked about him in one of our cases, didn't you?
I might have mentioned him, yeah.
Because there was, it was the one where you talked about like the beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yes, but Emmett happened like way earlier.
Yeah.
Like 60s, 70s, that kind of time frame.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure if his story was a white woman claimed that he had assaulted her.
I don't remember the details of it.
Or...
I'd have to look into it.
Like, there's like a specific infamous story that I'm thinking of as it relates to this one, but since I can't think of it, well, just never mind.
No, yeah. Rear Admiral Yates Sterling Jr., commandant of the U.S. Navy's 14th Naval District, suggested that he'd simply collect up several Navy men, hunt down the group, and, quote, string them up. As the case continued to develop, continued to be talked about, and continued to be investigated, cracks and inconsistencies started to appear. First off, the event, the assault and rape, hadn't yet been proven. And so I looked...
no shit.
I looked into it. So, like, DNA was really a big thing in, like, the 1990s. 1980s is when it really became a thing. This is, like, the 1930s.
It's pre-World War II.
Yes.
They don't got shit.
Right.
They maybe have fingerprints.
Right. So I don't think there was anything like a rape test kit.
No.
Like, nothing like that is available. So...
No one probably thought to take her to a hospital to actually see if her fucking jaw was broken.
Right. All these things.
Yeah.
It was also determined that it would have been extremely difficult for the men to have had the car accident, which that's documented, reported, corroborated.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that legit happened.
Right.
And then commit the rape all the way on the other side of town.
Yeah.
And especially because they said they left the luau at 1:30. Thalia saying she got picked up by a car at 1.
Right. I was thinking, like, for a second there that, like, those guys had picked her up and dropped her off, and that's why she remembered that license plate. But if it was just overheard, then I'm like, you literally have documentation that puts these guys' movement somewhere else, and you're just being lazy and not looking at it.
Right.
And racist and not looking at it.
Oh, the racism is so bad.
Ugh.
So witnesses then started coming forward, saying that they had seen Thalia that night and that it had been a white man following her just moments before the alleged assault had occurred, not a group of 5 Hawaiian men. In early October 1931, Grace, Thalia's mother, who I talked about, arrived in Honolulu. On January of 1932, Grace lived in Honolulu on Kolowalu Street in Manoa Valley. Thalia lived a short distance away on Kahawai Street. What I thought was interesting was she lives on Kahawai Street. One of the guys, Joseph, was Kahahawai.
Oh.
So there's one extra ha added into his last name from this street, which I thought was very interesting. So the rape trial, Territory of Hawaii versus Ben Ahakoelo et al., started in Hawaii on November 16th, 1931.
Et al.
So I said, keep in mind here, this is 1931.
Yeah.
So Hawaii didn't become a state until 1959.
Oh,
so this is 29 years prior to it becoming a state, which is why it's Territory of Hawaii versus this guy, not Hawaii.
Okay.
So that kind of plays a big part of this.
Sure.
So someone in regards to the trial that was about to happen was quoted saying, quote, while the good citizens of Honolulu waited for the trial to begin, rumors began to develop and spread through the city. There were those who whispered that Thalia had not been raped at all. It was said that she was having an illicit relationship with one of the 5 Beach Boy suspects and that she was on her way to rendezvous with him when she found him in the company of 4 drunken friends. It was also speculated that Thalia was having an affair with one of Tommy's shipmates. Tommy's her husband. When Tommy came home after the party, so the gossip went, he found his wife and his friend in flagrant delicto. And it was Tommy who beat up his wife and broke her jaw. So in the trial that the men stood, the information that the witnesses brought forward, so seeing the white man following Thalia, and the fact that Thalia knew information about the car from the police was never brought up in trial.
What?
Yep. Then on November 18th, 1931, Thalia testified for the prosecution and provided her story about her identification of the men, pretty much everything surrounding her case and the whole incident that occurred. Even before the trial, police were divided on the subject. They were locals and started to think that the case was actually a sham. They found it even more concerning that they were denied access in the courtroom during the trial. And we don't really get any information about this trial. So Mama Grace was furious about the stories that she was seeing that were attempting to sully the name of her daughter and her family. Stories saying that Thalia was lying and that people were starting to question her story and what she had claimed happened. So Grace started a public campaign attacking the defendants. The stories were kept a secret to the islands and kept away from the mainland. And because they wanted to keep the trial as hush-hush as possible, the courts were pressed for a quick and aggressive prosecution to placate the enraged Navy. But while in court, the case quickly fell apart. The prosecution rested on November 23, 1931, with closing arguments beginning on December 1, 1931. The trial for the men lasted 3 weeks, and the jury deliberation was quite lengthy. In the end, on December 6th, the jurors found themselves deadlocked, with 6 for the conviction and 6 for acquittal, and a mistrial was declared.
What does that mean?
A mistrial?
Mm-hmm.
It means that they couldn't come up to a unanimous decision.
But can they be charged again?
Yes, you would have another trial with completely new jurors, and sometimes the evidence that you used in that trial gets thrown out.
Okay.
So you need it's a completely new case.
Okay.
So yes, they will have another trial.
Yeah. So it's not like the acquittal where you can't.
The acquittal, you're done, you're not guilty, you're good to go.
Okay.
Mistrial is they still don't know what's happening with you. You're kind of pushing the case off till later.
Got it.
So Grace was furious.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't want to have to wait around for another trial. She wanted something to happen at that moment. So on January 5th, 1932, just about a month after the mistrial was declared, Grace started to think about how she would extract a confession from the men who had raped her daughter. On January 7th, her plan was put into action. Grace arranged for the kidnapping and violent beating of Horace Ida First. He was seized on a Honolulu street by a carload of sailors. He was beaten, clubbed, and whipped with leather belts. Once that was taken care of and no confession was received, Grace talked to Thomas Massie. She convinced him to then kidnap Joseph Kahahawe. Thomas took along 2 enlisted Navy men with him, Deacon Jones and Edward J. Lord. They knew that Joseph had to meet with his probation officer at the courthouse at very specific times. They made sure that they were there waiting for him. Shortly after 8 a.m., Joseph was kidnapped and promptly taken to Grace's house. Grace, Thomas, and the 2 Navy men then interrogated Joseph to try to get a confession out of him. To try to beat a confession out of him. Sometime during their interrogation, one of the group shot Joseph. This wasn't part of their plans. They had to figure out what to do with the body.
Oh my God.
Yes.
So you now have 2 people that are denying it, despite the fact that you're beating the living crap out of them, and you still don't believe them.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid.
So after trying to clean the body off in Grace's bathtub, they decided to dump Joseph's body off Cocoa Head near the Halona blowhole. And I was just thinking, I love baths. I would never be able to take a bath if I knew that we had rinsed a dead body off in my bathtub.
100%.
I wouldn't even be able to shower and
no.
Oh my God, it's just so bad.
Yeah.
So this area near the Cocoa Head, near the Halona blowhole, it was a deserted area far away from the urban part of Honolulu. And apparently, this is what an article said, it was the perfect place to dispose of bodies. I know.
Meaning more than one?
I don't know. How many bodies have been disposed here?
Right.
So they wrapped him in a sheet and transported him in Grace's rental car, pulling down the shades in the car to hide the interior. The kidnapping had already been reported to the police, so they were aware of it and on the lookout. A police motorcyclist was doing his rounds and saw their car with the blinds down and considered this suspicious, so he pulled them over.
God bless some sense.
I know. Inside of the car, the officer found Grace, Thomas Massie, and Edward Lord, with Joseph's naked body wrapped in a bloody sheet lying in the back of the car. So the 3 were immediately arrested and taken into custody. Deacon Jones was back at Grace's house, and he was picked up for questioning as well. And where they were held? In, quote, luxurious surroundings aboard a ship and dock at Pearl Harbor. So that was where they were being held.
I know that, racism is very much still an issue today. Not that there hasn't been progress made, but
not much.
Hearing blatant stories like this, I sometimes really just can't wrap my head around it.
No.
So
Joseph Kahawe's funeral took place on January 10th, 1932. More Hawaiians turned up for his funeral than any other funeral since the death of the last Queen of Hawaii in 1917.
Wow.
So now there's been a murder.
Mm-hmm.
The news went crazy and the mainland heard all about what was happening. Every major American newspaper was running front-page stories about the case. The press started printing stories that said things like, quote, where the roads go through jungles and in those remote places, bands of degenerate natives lie in wait for white women driving by.
What the fuck?
Seeping in racism. It's so bad.
Ew.
And because they're technically not a state yet, they're just a territory.
Yeah.
So they're just the Hawaiian territory. Mm-hmm.
I hate people.
So with the story erupting in the U.S., the president called a special cabinet meeting at the White House. Congress held emergency weekend hearings to address what was considered to be a national security emergency in Hawaii.
What year was this?
1930s. 1932. What are you trying to think of?
The president.
Oh, do you want me to look it up? See if you're right.
I'm pretty sure it was
Pop quiz.
I'm pretty sure it was FDR because he became president right after the stock market crashed, and he was president for 2 terms. And then because we were in the middle of the war, he got elected for a 3rd. And then it was after that we made the amendment that they could only be elected for 2 terms.
Who did you say?
FDR.
Yes. Look at you.
Thank you.
So yeah, he's the president. And the reason why they considered it a national security emergency in Hawaii was because Hawaii was one of their big ports.
Yeah,
so
I mean
they're still a territory.
The time that you're talking about, they still had sugar plantations.
Oh,
it was from 1850 to 1950.
Wow.
Yeah, 100 years they had this going on.
Jeez. The Justice Department and the FBI sent teams of investigators to Hawaii as well. So the men had not been convicted, as it had ended in a mistrial. So the mainland took that to mean that this area was a hotbed of anti-white racial hatred. Not the fact that the men may just be innocent and that there wasn't much of a case in the first place.
And I'm assuming no one's been arrested for fucking murder at this point.
No. And there was no sympathy for the young man that had been murdered either. All of this sympathy went to the victim, Thalia, and his killers, so Joseph's killers, Grace, Thomas, Deacon, and Edward. Time magazine blamed Joseph and his friends for his own death, describing them as, quote, 5 brown-skinned young bucks who demonstrated the well-known, quote, lust of mixed breeds for white women when they raped her in the first place. That's what the Time magazine was saying. So it's their fault that he's dead.
I feel like we need more corporations, big ones like that, to acknowledge some of the shit that they used to print. I don't give a fuck if none of them are around anymore who actually wrote it in the first place.
Right.
Own up to your part in history and fueling that fucking fire.
Right.
If the media is doing it today and all the crap that we're having to deal with, and Time magazine is today we think of as such a respectable magazine.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm if you're printing shit like this.
So the fact that they had not been convicted of the rape in the first place only proved to the American press that Hawaii was, quote, a cesspool of anti-white racial hatred that did not deserve territorial status. In response to this, the New York Post called for a battleship to sail to Honolulu Harbor and rescue the murderers of the civil authorities who had them under arrest.
They have a naval base there.
Yeah. But they want them to come save them
Morons.
from being under arrest. On January 21st, a grand jury convened to decide whether to issue indictments of the murder of Joseph Kahahawe. After a 12-8 vote or 12-9 vote, the grand jury returned an indictment of second-degree murder against Grace, Thomas, Edward, and Deacon.
God fucking bless.
Judge Albert Christie, who was the judge presiding over this case, set the bail for each defendant at $50,000, which I did time money converter. That would be over $1 million today.
I was going to say, it's the middle of the Great Depression. $50,000, that is...
Yeah. He did, however, agree to lower the bail and allowed the defendants to remain lodged in Navy quarters after receiving assurance from the Secretary of the Navy that they wouldn't try to escape and wouldn't use their lodging as a means of escape. So they're literally in Navy boats.
We really need to stop, in some cases, stop using people's titles as credibility. Because anyone can be a shady person.
So now I have an indictment against the 4, meaning that their case is going to go to court and go to trial.
Okay.
Duh. So step in Clarence Darrow.
New character?
New character.
Okay.
Darrow was one of the most famous criminal lawyers in American history, known for his courtroom defenses of the oppressed and downtrodden. He had retired, but the Great Depression had hit him pretty hard. So when he was offered a good amount of money to defend 4 white people charged with killing a young Hawaiian man, he readily agreed.
Traitor!
That big thump was Mackenzie's microphone falling over in rage. He arrived in Honolulu on March 24th to a huge crowd, wanting to welcome America's most celebrated defense attorney to the island. Jury selection was made on April 4th. The judge who would be presiding over this case was Judge Charles Davis, defense led by Clarence Darrow, and prosecution led by John Kelly. Kelly was originally from Montana, with this being his first case as a prosecutor.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
So this was especially intense for him going up against Darrow, a well-known defense attorney. Those who were chosen...
I really hope this is a Cinderella story for him and he comes out on top. And not what I think is going to happen.
Those who were chosen to serve as the jury were not too eager. This was already shaping up to be a highly controversial trial, and those chosen for the jury knew that, and that made them nervous.
I don't blame them.
No, I don't blame them at all. Over 100 prospective jurors were interviewed, but in the end, the final jury consisted of 7 white individuals, 3 Chinese individuals, and 2 Hawaiian individuals. So we have our jury of 12.
Is it half and half?
7 white, 3 Chinese, 2 Hawaiian. So
no.
Majority of white.
Yeah.
On April 11th, 1932, Kelly gave his opening statement and called his first witness. The prosecution went on until April 14th with their final witness, Joseph's mother, being called. They don't go in. We don't really touch a lot on what kind of happened with each of the things, just kind of an overview of everything.
Yeah.
Because if I went more into this case would last like 4 days.
Yeah.
So when they closed with a recess, Darrow was up next to give his opening statement for the defense. But Darrow waived his opening statement and went straight to calling his first witness, Thalia Massie. So it was very clear at this point that Darrow wanted to go with a temporary insanity plea and wanted to pin the whole murder on Thomas. Thomas had a motive and a reason to do the killing. None of the others in the group really did, obviously, other than Grace, but they wanted to focus on Thomas.
And that's the husband, right?
Husband.
Yeah.
Your wife has just been murdered.
Yeah.
She's not murdered. Raped and assaulted. Like,
right.
You know, you had a reason to kill this guy.
Yeah.
Then, okay, this part pissed me off. The next day is April 15th. Darrow was too hungover to attend court, so the day's session had to be canceled. Are you fucking kidding me? Uh-huh.
I think probably the most mind-blowing thing right now is that all of this is true.
Yeah.
This is not like some crazy, insane movie.
Right.
This is an actual thing. How actual human beings behave towards each other. Like, I just, I can't.
So trial picked back up on April 16th. Darrow announced that, quote, evidence will show Massie held the gun in his hand from which the fatal shot was fired.
Isn't he supposed to be defending Massie?
He's trying to defend the 4 of them. Like, it's clear this guy was murdered.
Yeah, well,
so
yeah.
I think they're trying to figure out who did it and who to pin the murder on. Okay. And kind of to maybe get that sentence dropped down. I'm not sure.
Are the 4 of them being tried together?
Yeah. And so he's defending all 4 of them.
And Massie is one of them.
Yes. So it's Massie, Grace, so Thalia's mother.
Yeah.
And then Massie's 2 Navy friends. So Deacon and Edward.
I'd be fucking pissed if I was Massie and my freaking lawyer's pinning the whole thing on me.
I know. But he's also trying to make it the insanity plea. So it's like the temporary insanity because it wouldn't make sense for like Edward or Deacon to have temporary insanity.
No. I mean, it makes...
And Grace being this like, mother, no, she's not going to have it either. She's a socialite. Of course not.
Of course not.
So it makes sense to fall on Thomas Massie, this Navy man who, you know. Massie testified and said that Joseph admitted that they had raped Thalia. Thomas then, so this is what Massie's saying that Joseph said. So Thomas then said that he remembers nothing else about what happened at Grace's house the day of the murder other than the confession by Joseph. So it's a dead man against a man who can tell you what happened. And so, of course, the man who can tell you what happened is going to blame the dead man for saying, oh, yeah, we raped her.
Doesn't help that he's white and
correct.
The dead man is not.
So this part's really great, too. So Darrow's whole plan...
This whole story has just been fabulous.
It's really, really great. So Darrow's whole plan and strategy was to mainly say that Joseph had indeed participated in the gang rape of Thalia Massie and that his murder was a justified honor killing. So fun fact about his argument, he took this strategy from one that the KKK used when trying to justify lynchings.
I don't know why I gasped so much as if that was shocking information because it's not. It's very on par.
Honor killings. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, if you have to wear a mask for the group that you are in, you know it's wrong.
Throughout the whole trial, Thalia tried to represent herself as an innocent victim, trying to show that she was just a good little white girl who had been viciously attacked and that she, her mother, and the group had done what they needed to do to protect her.
Zero guilt. Zero guilt of the chaos that she has caused. The life that it's her fault it's been taken.
Mm-hmm.
No guilt, remorse of any kind.
Right.
Just still wanting to put on the facade.
Oh, absolutely. So the prosecutor, Kelly, tried to take this one by playing on her feelings of superiority. When he did this, she became enraged, ripped up a piece of evidence, and stormed from the stand. She then rushed across the courtroom in tears to the waiting arms of her husband. You would think this would be a win for the prosecution, showing that Thalia was a loose cannon.
Yeah.
But rather, the courtroom exploded in supportive applause for her.
Oh, son of a...
It's infuriating. So Darrow contended this customary unwritten law and demanded that the accused should be free, just because of the whole honor killing.
Mm-hmm.
Years later, the New York Times, who ran hundreds of articles on this case, would recall this case of Darrow's as one of 3 of his most compelling trials ever.
Compelling?
Mm-hmm. So the others were the Scopes monkey trial over the teaching of evolution in Tennessee. Did you ever learn about that?
Yeah.
I figured you would.
You did too.
Okay, I figured you would remember more than I would.
It was, separation of church and state.
Ah.
Yeah.
So he was one of the big ones in that.
Which side was he defending?
Probably the wrong one.
Okay.
I don't know. But he tries to defend the downtrodden.
Yeah.
The other case was the Leopold and Leo murder trial in Chicago. I didn't go into these because my cases are really long.
Yeah.
And this particular trial, the Massie trial, contained high drama that neither of the other two cases had even come close to.
Yeah, because there's spewing of racism.
Kelly was not intimidated by the immense political pressure he was under.
Good.
And he was not intimidated to be going against the powerhouse that was Darrow.
Good.
He matched Darrow point for point throughout the entire trial.
Hell yeah.
He even described Darrow's defense as advocacy of the, quote, serpent of lynch law.
What?
He warned the jury that nothing could be worse than allowing that to become the law of the land. We like Kelly.
I like Kelly. He's given me a little bit of Cinderella vibes.
We like Kelly.
Might pull through.
So like I said, and what can be imagined, this was a sensationalized case.
Yeah.
Reporters from all over the world were in Honolulu for the trial. A special radio hookup was even installed so that Darrow's closing arguments, which took place on April 27th, could be broadcast live. The jury had a tough case to listen to, according to HonoluluAdvertiser.com. One side of the whole argument was that the defendants had killed Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
There's literally zero doubt about that. On the other hand, quote, there was equally little doubt that a conviction would bring, at the very least, what was called a commissioned form of government to Hawaii, an arrangement only one step short of martial law. So there was such talks going on about this, like that martial law could potentially come because of how heated this was.
Yeah.
So even Prosecutor Kelly said that a fair and honorable decision could mean the end of civilian rule in the islands. So he's like, even if we do the right thing and put these people away, there could be just complete unrest and unrule.
Yeah,
here.
No matter which side.
Yep.
Someone's going to explode of anger.
And many of the jurors were employed by companies controlled by the corporate oligarchy that pretty much dominated all business in Hawaii.
Yeah, or the sugar plantations. I read about those guys. Big five.
Right. Or they worked for firms that had very close connections with the Navy because the Navy has a huge base there.
Mm-hmm.
So their livelihoods and economic well-being was at stake just for them being on the jury. So after 2 days of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict that the defendants were guilty of not murder, but manslaughter. So it wasn't murder, but manslaughter still carries a 10-year prison sentence.
They're not getting shit.
Immediately, Governor Judd started receiving calls for pardons of the 4 accused, but on May 3rd, Judge Davis sentenced the defendants to 10 years in prison.
Good.
Darrow was outraged. Okay. This next thing that he says, literally, as I was reading it, I went, like, okay. So there were about 6-7 white jurors and 6 who were not white. Darrow complained that during the trial, quote, it was not easy to guess what they were thinking about, if anything at all, adding that, quote, obviously they did not think as we do. Mind you, Darrow's white, so he concluded his little rant by saying, a jury of white men would have acquitted. Mm-hmm. Like, reading it, I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
It just, how you can look at another human. The only difference is their skin color.
Yes!
Is that their intellect is less than yours.
Oh my God!
Like, this entire country was built on the backs of enslaved African Americans. Like, if a lot of the inventions that we know today were stolen from Black people by a white person to take claim for it.
Like, or Native Americans, just like people who were here long before we were, or people who we dragged here.
Yes.
Like, it's infuriating. And it's still so prevalent today.
Oh, absolutely. And, I was listening to a speech for a class, and it was President Obama who was giving a speech on
I miss him.
the bridge, the commemorating Bloody Sunday. And he was talking about how he had, at that time, it was 2015, people were saying it's no different than it was back then. And he's like, don't get me wrong, there is still a lot of injustice and a lot of work to do, but looking at what it was like back then versus what it's like now, there has been progress.
There has been.
Just not enough.
Right.
It's not completed. It's not finished.
Right.
And that was his point. It's like, there has been progress, but no, it's not finished yet. We still have more work to do.
Absolutely, we do.
And I was like, okay, I can work with that, and I think sometimes humanity also gets just bogged down in what's going on, and they're like, life sucks, this is terrible. And just like a good friend or whatever would, when you're talking to them, tries to lift you up and say, hey, look at all the work you've done. You've come this far, like trying to think positively.
Yeah.
But then
it's just hard.
I mean, this time frame, my grandparents were born.
Right.
Like, it's not that long ago.
Right.
And so for people to act
it's not even 100 years ago.
Right. Like, people are acting like it's so different. I'm like, no, because that happened so recently. You can't change the mindset of people just because you changed the law.
Come on, younger generations. We have a lot of work to do.
Ooh.
So.
And you were giving me shit from my soapbox.
No, I wasn't.
We've been standing on the soapbox the whole time.
I did not. I just didn't know how you were going to do a soapbox about ghosts. I was intrigued, if anything.
Your first reaction was, oh, God.
And then I saw the soapbox and I said, interesting take.
And here we are. We've been standing.
Oh,
we just keep stacking the soapboxes up.
Oh, God, I know. So the fact that they were actually convicted was shocking, as due to the racial tension, everyone expected that the case would end in another hung jury, so another mistrial.
Yeah.
Mainland was exploding with the stories, adding to the racial tensions, obviously. Martial law was considered if rioting were to begin. So this had been imposed by Admiral Sterling, the guy who wanted to get his Navy buddies to take care of the group of men from the beginning. He wanted to impose the law, martial law, immediately, but had to say that they, the Navy, would wait until rioting began before they started anything.
Oh, good.
So thankfully, martial law was avoided. The 4 convicted were Grace Fortescue, her son-in-law Thomas Massie, Edward J. Lord, and Deacon Jones. So those were the 2 sailors. The 4 had all participated in the abduction and murder of Joseph. So the thought that 3 white Navy men in a small 5'6", 168 kilometers, or centimeters, I can't, and 134 pounds, or 61 kilograms, middle-aged Washington socialite might have to spend time in a territorial prison seemed unthinkable. So you can't have these 3 Navy men and this really small socialite stay in a prison.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you saying that prison conditions are awful for people to live in? Weird.
In a territorial prison, Mackenzie.
Okay.
So.
Makes it worse?
Because it's a territory, Mackenzie. We're in, like, the boonies out here. Mainland doesn't.
The jungle.
Right, the jungles.
Yeah.
Where people are waiting to rape women.
Mm.
So this seemed unthinkable. The 4 had kidnapped and murdered a young Hawaiian man. So a lot of diplomatic maneuvering was done between Washington, D.C. and Honolulu. Due to pressure from the Navy, Territorial Governor Lawrence M. Judd commuted their 10-year sentence to 1 hour.
1 hour?
To be served in his executive chambers.
That would make me riot immediately. Immediately.
Mm-hmm. So the 4 accused spent that night, after their long sentence of 1 hour, celebrating their freedom at a local Chinese restaurant.
You don't get to have that delicious food if you're going to be a racist son of a bitch.
1 hour. For the murder of a man. 1 hour.
I would almost rather them just not have any time, because I feel like the hour is such a spit in your face.
And it's not even like they served it in jail. They served it in his executive chambers. So they're probably just sitting on a couch, hanging out, talking, and then, oh, an hour?
Like,
y'all are good to go?
He's thinking if he does that, oh, I'm giving you something.
But this way he still says they were sentenced and they were held. Just days later, on May 7th, the group of them, Grace, Thomas, Thalia, the 2 Navy men, and Darrow, all boarded a ship and left the island in turmoil. They were headed to San Francisco to continue living free there. In 1932, the Associated Press editors voted the Massie case as one of the most notorious criminal incidents in the modern history of Hawaii. They voted it as the biggest criminal case in the country, alongside the Lindbergh baby kidnapping. What's your heart rate? Is that what you're looking at?
104.
But yeah, so this case was voted as one of the biggest in the country, with the Lindbergh baby kidnapping. So that's how big this case was. Just months later, on October 3rd, 1932, an independent investigation done by mainland detectives funded by the territory was able to demonstrate that, beyond doubt, the accused men could not have possibly committed the alleged rape. This was outlined in a 273-page report from the Pinkerton Detective Agency. It was done by mainland detectives that the territory wanted to be done. So I don't think it's necessarily that it was going to be released. It was just pretty much showing, like, the rape didn't happen. I don't know who they wanted to give it out to, but compelling evidence suggested that the supposed crime had never even occurred and that Thalia Massie was not raped.
No shit.
Right. So I think it more also could have been for the men to show, like, we do believe you.
Yeah.
You know, like, here's 273 pages outlining everything that we found, showing that you didn't do it.
Oh, thank you for this book.
Right.
Letting me know I was innocent. That really makes up for shit.
On February 13th, 1933, Prosecutor Kelly announced that all rape charges against the 5 men were being dropped. Because remember, it ended in the mistrial.
Right.
So they still technically haven't had that trial yet.
Right. Yeah.
So this is also kind of helping with that because they're
good.
like, now I don't have to go to trial for this.
Yeah.
A main reason why it had to be dropped was that Thalia, the prosecution's lead witness, had left the territory and could not be forced to return to testify.
Oh, so that was the main reason.
Another main
Not
reason.
because they were actually innocent and there was no fucking proof otherwise.
Right. So Thalia and Thomas divorced in 1934 in Reno. Thalia died of a barbiturate overdose in Palm Beach on July 2nd, 1963. Deacon Jones died in 1966. Grace died in 1979. And Thomas died in 1987.
Hopefully all painfully.
I hope. I don't know if Edward Jones, I don't know what happened to him. It didn't say anything about him. So he was the 4th one. So in 1966, Peter von Slingerland.
What a name.
I knew you were going to say something. He wrote a book called Something Terrible Has Happened. So in this book, he interviewed Deacon Jones about the murder of Joseph. Jones admitted in this interview that he was the one who shot Joseph. Part of that exchange goes, you say Massie was questioning him, then what happened? He says, Massie asked him a question and Kahahawe lunged at him. I say lunged. Someone else might say he just leaned forward. And then I shot him. You shot him? You're goddamn right I did. I shot him right under the left nipple and to the side. When that slug hit him, he just went over backwards on the chase lounge. The bullet didn't go through him. It stayed in his body. That was the climax right there.
And see, that's also what I mean, too, about it's so recent in history. One of the people who was accused in this case died less than 10 years before you and I were born.
Right.
Right. And you're telling me that those laws changed his mindset?
Right.
You're joking.
So Jones admitted that he shot, quote, the black bastard because he had no use for him. Because he'd never confessed. He never said that. He kept denying that they raped her and it wasn't happening. And so, well, you're not giving me what I want. I don't need you anymore.
And I'm assuming too, when you were talking earlier about, well, I guess that's the witnesses for her case, but nothing was ever brought up for the first guy who was assaulted for the same reason.
The one who was beaten?
Yeah.
Boris? No, of course not.
So, again, they did it twice.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, of course not. So, Jones also said that he fully knew what he was doing in the moment. There was no temporary insanity.
No, absolutely not.
He also admitted that Joseph never actually confessed to having raped Thalia when they were interrogating him. So
of course not.
Right. So there were some people in the case who I want to mention who never made it into any narrative throughout all of the cases and trials and whatnot. Others who faced some really treacherous times. So the first would be the 5 accused men. Going to try the last names again. Horace Ida, Joseph Kahawe, Henry Chang, David Takai, and Benjamin Ahaquelo. One was nearly beaten to death. One was kidnapped, shot, and killed. But all 5 of them endured months of defamation within the media and the threat of a heavy prison sentence for something they claimed again and again they didn't do.
And even after that's all over, regardless of what the outcome is, the social the social part of that afterwards, you can say that somebody's innocent, but if your neighbor doesn't think that that's true,
right,
then your neighbor's going to hate you. It doesn't matter what you say or what anyone else says.
And for a year or two, they still had, before the trial was officially closed, they still had that threat hanging over their head. They're like, we had a mistrial. We have to do this again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this holds strong that they didn't do it. The police, prosecutors, everyone tried all of the typical interrogation tactics, such as offering individual immunity to one of the 5 if they would rat on the others.
Yeah.
But despite threats and all different sorts of enticements, none of the men budged on their insistence that all of them were innocent and had done nothing wrong. There were also lawyers who were never mentioned who stepped forward during that first trial to defend the accused men without compensation.
Good for them.
One of those lawyers was William Heen. He was known as being one of the best attorneys in the islands and was a circuit court judge in the territory. There was also Robert Murakami, a young local Japanese lawyer who had recently graduated from the University of Chicago Law School. There was also William Pittman, originally from Mississippi. These men are mentioned because not only did they defend these men, who they knew wouldn't be able to pay them, they defended them during a very racially tense era. And by doing
Especially from Mississippi.
Right. Right. And by doing so, they publicly exposed the turmoil that was teeming at the time in the territories. In one of Pittman's cases, he summed up his defense by accusing the prosecution of bending to the will of, quote, conspiracy of white people, the small group of hypocritical Hales more anxious to satisfy the Navy than to seek justice.
Where have we heard this before?
And a Hale is either a non-native Hawaiian or a native Hawaiian.
Oh, a haole. A haole?
Haole.
And I only know it because in Hawaii Five-0, Native Hawaiians call all the white people, I think it's haole or haole or something like that.
Because I looked it up to try to figure out what that word meant to like give more like,
Yeah.
But each time I looked up that and then that, they each gave me the same answer. And I said, well, that can't be right. So I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I just didn't mention it.
It's like, what is Hispanic people call white people?
Gringa?
That.
Oh, okay.
It's like that version.
Okay.
Yeah. Like a muggle.
Non-magic folk.
Exactly.
So we also have the judge who presided over the murder case, Albert Christie. So I mentioned how the grand jury was at first nervous and unwilling to indict the 4 who had killed Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
The grand jury was made up of 21 members, 19 of whom were white. And I don't know how they got from 20.
Yeah, I was just about to ask.
I don't know. I don't know how they got from 20 to the 12 that they had in the grand jury to do the indictment, but somewhere it started with 21, 19 of them being white. One even said, get this, that he was fearful of what would happen to his standing in the community if he voted to indict, quote, 4 well-connected white people for the murder of a poor Hawaiian.
Power, man.
But Judge Albert Christie, who was also white, risked a qualification from the case and potentially his whole career's future by demanding that the grand jury indict the 4 murderers.
See,
and that's exactly what he made them do.
We need more people like that. It's not the people from those communities who are advocating for themselves. Of course, they're going to do that. It's the people who are in power that need to stand up for those other people.
Yep. So we have in total, with the final amount of the grand jury, 24 jurors who took on both the rape case and the murder case.
Okay.
So among them were 7 whites, 9 Haole Hawaiians, 4 Chinese, 2 Portuguese, and 2 Japanese.
So I wonder what the difference. Now, I don't know. I just go by whatever they said in the television show. But I wonder if it's like a white person who lives in Hawaii.
That's what I think it is.
Versus just like,
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Again,
Yeah.
I couldn't find the answer online. And because we're not from that culture, I just don't know.
Yeah, and the only reference I have is the TV shows.
Right. So our arrogance is from trying to figure it out and we just don't know.
Yeah.
So they didn't think of what they had to lose, these jurors, and they had nothing to gain by voting the way they did, but they, quote, faced down the local and national white power structure and voted their consciences.
Good.
Then we have George Wright, editor of the English language section of the Japanese newspaper Hawaii Hochi.
Nice.
Wright had been a civilian machinist, or machinist?
Mechanic?
No, it's like someone who works on machines.
It's not mechanic.
It's not mechanic, Mackenzie. I know how that looks. Yeah, machinist.
Oh.
Bitch.
You're the one who was questioning these. I was trying to help you out.
You're sure it's not mechanic? Yes, it's not mechanic. So he had been a civilian machinist at Pearl Harbor before being fired for union activities. I don't know what that means.
Union organizing.
Okay. So he, Wright, along with his boss, Frederick McKenna, maintained an editorial that criticized aspects of the trial, pointing out the flaws in the charges against the 5 men from the very beginning, and never wavering from a demand for justice for the men in the face of, quote, an avalanche of racial prejudice. So I'm going to end with this last little note. On August 3rd, 2006, the American Bar Association held their convention at the Hawaii Convention Center in Honolulu. Lieutenant Governor James Iona served as the judge for a mock trial that would be held at the convention. The mock trial was going to be the rape case. He used a copy of the 273-page Pinkerton National Detective Agency report that had been compiled by the then territorial government. He also used 21st century forensic techniques that provided more light into the rape case. Lawyers who were attending the convention acted as a jury. 2 experts gave testimonies and new arguments were brought up in the case. The lawyers, acting as a jury, unanimously voted not guilty for all defendants. Among other factors, the defense put forth evidence that the 5 accused men had been involved in violence on the other side of the island, so the accident near the time of the attack on Thalia.
Literally actual fucking proof.
Yes. They would not have been able to make it all the way to Waikiki in time to rape Thalia as she had described.
One of the things...
Literally not possible.
One of the things I was going to ask you in the beginning when you were talking about what they were doing versus where she was how far away it was.
Yeah, I didn't know exactly how far away it was, but definitely too far. There's no way they could have done both.
Yeah.
And a weird little twist, the Hawaii Convention Center, where this trial and convention took place, sits on the former Alawas Inn, where this whole case first started. And there you have the Massie case.
Retroactively. That. Disbar, what's his name?
Daro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for that case alone.
Posthumously? whatever.
Whatever it is that you do when they're already dead.
Post-human something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Postmortem.
So yeah, when I first saw this case, I was like, hell yeah, mama killing the rapist. Like, we got this. I support you 100%.
Sure.
And then as I'm reading the case, I'm like, okay, I can still see the mama bear in her wanting to protect her daughter. And I always want to believe women.
Mhm.
Always. But
from the jump, the moment you started telling me like her story was all weird, I'm like, she's making it up.
Yep.
You know, like, especially if she's supposed to have physical injuries, I'm like,
Mhm.
that alone is gonna, even if they don't understand the concept of a rape kit and things like that, a broken jaw?
Right.
That you don't just not go to the hospital for a broken jaw.
Right.
I'm pretty sure you have to go get that fixed.
Yeah.
Like,
You have to get it set or something.
something.
But yeah. So again, we always want to believe the victims. But in a case like this, when there's so much evidence showing that it did not happen,
Right.
and when your confession caused someone to die
Yeah.
and another person to be beaten, it's just so bad. And like the racism is so awful because she is a white woman of high standing
Mhm.
and they're all, quote, degenerates.
Right.
Like, it's just awful.
Well, and the thing about believing women too is that only runs into a problem when it's against a white man.
Right.
They instantly believe them if it's against any sort of person of color.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because it's the false accusations against the people of color that I believe is why society still is using that argument. How do you know she's telling the truth?
Right.
Et cetera, et cetera. And yes, there are terrible people out there that accuse people of things they didn't do. But I would think that today that's not happening as much.
I mean, now we do have DNA and we
Yeah.
have science.
More so, I'm saying that not like in, specific states or cities. I'm talking about like the ones that come forward for people in power.
Mm.
And those people are coming forward and everyone's like, well, they just want money or they just want attention or whatever.
Right.
Like, I feel like that is less so them making up something.
It's because they feel more empowered now
Yeah.
and more like supported to share what happened.
And they're distanced enough away that they feel safe enough to say something.
Right.
And then especially the moment that more people start to come forward, which
Mhm.
always happens because they're like, oh, you did
You
it.
said something?
I can say
could do
something
it.
too.
Mhm.
And I'm like, you can't say all of these people are lying.
Right.
Like, that just doesn't,
Right.
especially if it's people that don't know each other. How would they get together and come up with this plan?
And also, sometimes it's like the people, they don't even want money.
Right.
They're not like, oh, I'm just doing this so I can sue you and get money.
Right.
No, they're doing it to put someone who did something awful behind bars.
Yes.
They're 9 times out of 10, if restitution is being asked for, you're never going to get that money. Never.
Yeah.
You never.
Well, and a lot of times what ends up happening is that these stories come out later.
Right.
And so the statute of limitations.
I know.
So that has to be a civil case at that point.
Right.
It can't be a criminal one.
Right.
And I'm like, that's not their fault.
Mhm.
That's the justice system.
Yep.
I think that assaults on that level like that, where you
Mhm.
rape someone,
Violent assaults.
and sexual assault kind of thing,
Mhm.
should be held to the same standard as murder.
Yes.
Like,
Oh, I agree.
it's not talking about like if you get in a fight.
No, yeah. Like the violent.
Yes. But
Yes.
if you assault someone to that level,
Yes.
you should be looked at like a murderer.
Yeah.
It just
So yeah, got you all riled up.
You
on this
did.
one.
You did. You got me freaking heated, man.
I know. I did not think it would be this intense. And as I was going through it, it was like most controversial case in Hawaii. And I was like, oh no, what have I
Wait.
gotten myself into?
I never heard of it.
I hadn't either.
I don't even know I definitely haven't heard of it. I don't know how the Hubbard thing is, like maybe it's someone else named Hubbard.
There is L. Ron Hubbard
Maybe that.
for Scientology.
No, not him. I don't know.
I think he's Scientology.
I'll just try to find it later and see if I can figure out the Hubbard I was thinking of. But
I think it'll be L. Ron Hubbard.
it might be.
Cults.
It might be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm as aggravating as this was, I like to hear these stories
That's why I stuck with it and kept covering it, because it, like we say, we like to cover the things that people don't know about.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure people know about this.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
And so I know that there are going to be other people like us who don't know about this.
Absolutely.
And so, as we also like to do, we like to, talk about those things and talk about something that can we have a platform and we like to use it. But yeah, so that's Hawaii.
God damn. God damn.
Soapbox on soapbox on soapbox.
Yeah, we are like 100 feet up at this point with all the soapboxes we're on.
Ghosts and real ones.
I know. I stepped off mine and I had to immediately get back on.
I know. Off one, on the other. So thanks for listening.
And be fucking nice to people.
Seriously. Well, everyone go cool off with a fan to the face or a glass of water. I don't know.
Or something stronger.
Something stronger works too. We'll probably have that next week.
Yeah.
We liked it this week. But we didn't plan
Honestly,
this
though,
week.
it's probably best that we didn't, because Lord knows what would come out.
Oh my God,
if I'd
and
been
how
drinking.
long this would have been if we were drinking.
We would have freaking flown to Hawaii and rioted for something that happened
Almost 100 years ago.
Exactly. Ugh. Wow. Well, great storytelling.
Thank you.
At that aspect of things.
Thank you.
I'm really glad that your trigger warning was on time this time.
Yes. The moment we got to that part of the story, as I was like typing, I said, let me go back and tap that trigger warning.
Not coming in halfway through and being like, oh, hey, by the way, this might make you pissed off.
By the way, right after I say the thing, let me warn you.
Right, exactly. So be good to one another, be kind, and stay spooky.
And stay safe.